a warm welcome to Joe Trippi and our guests online on YouTube. Summits on Air for the first time in English. Joe Trippi will provide us an international perspective on social media campaigning. He worked for John Edwards, Howard Dean, and other politicians in the United States, and he used social media in the early days. Welcome, Joe, and thanks for your time.
Good to be with you, Christoph.
As usual, those who watch on YouTube, you can send us your questions and comments on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. We will collect everything, and I will bring those questions and comments into the discussion. But let me start with a couple of basic questions. Joe, I mentioned that you worked with politicians. Did they embrace social media from the beginning, or were they cautious? How was the situation with those of your clients?
Well, no, from the very beginning, they were all the politicians were way too cautious about using social media. It frightened them. They were afraid of it. Many of them still are. It took the success of the Dean campaign, the Howard Dean campaign for president that I ran. We pioneered many things in social media that led to the Obama campaign, but it was when we succeeded, we raised more money online than politicians had raised in history in the United States in the Dean campaign, and then they saw that success, and so others started to use it, but it was a very slow process to get leaders to understand that the bottom-up nature of social media is more powerful than their usual top-down talking at people instead of interchanging ideas and exchanging ideas with them.
Now, you mentioned those experiences. What turned out to be successful tools and techniques when you campaigned using social media?
Well, I mean, we used the first one was a site called Meetup.com that allowed people to meet on their own outside of the campaign without the campaign's interference, and create their own campaign on our behalf, to join our campaign, to join together to move the Howard Dean campaign forward. That was a very important tool that's been a success not only in the United States but around the world, where people have started to use tools like that. Obviously, the tools that are available today that we did not have in 2003, 2004, things like Facebook's Twitter, the ability for one person to move an idea to thousands immediately on behalf of, or a piece of video of their favorite candidate, or to get people to volunteer for the campaign. Those tools have become more powerful, and they're giving more power to people on the street, to people in the neighborhoods, to shake up the party's established party system, to put new energy into the parties from the ground up. And that, I think, is what's changing democracy, strengthening it here in the United States, and we're seeing it in other parts of the world now. Many countries like Nigeria, where I did the internet and message strategy for the new president there, Goodluck Jonathan, to what you're seeing in the Arab Spring and what you're seeing in throughout Europe is as these techniques and social media is empowering more and more people to strengthen their party, strengthen their cause.
Can you also see it in the business sector? If you compare politics with the business sector, are the same tools or techniques also relevant in this area?
Absolutely. What you're seeing now is our corporations start to use the same techniques that were pioneered in the political campaigns. It used to be the opposite. The corporations would create television or buy the advertising on television, tell us what they wanted us to buy, and the political campaigns would copy that to that kind of message structure to try to win elections. Now with the success of social media and the successive political use of it, you're starting to see more companies try to copy what we've been learning in politics. So you're starting to see a blend of the two, which I'm a little worried about, to be honest with you, because I'm worried that the corporate influence will start the manipulation game of media that we saw with television and radio will eventually, and we're already starting to see a little bit of that in social media. So I'm a little worried about it, but it's interesting that for the first time the roles have sort of been reversed.
Good. So let me introduce our second guest to those who are watching on YouTube. It's Peter Metzinger. He's teaching at Somex Cloud, and he's organizing Campaigning Summit Zurich, which will take place this week, next Friday. And Joe, of course, will be one of the speakers. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Christoph. Nice to meet you. I finally made it.
Good
Not
seeing
a problem.
you, Peter.
We're just discussing some basic questions. We already received some questions from our community which is watching online on YouTube. We were just discussing about comparisons between politics and the business sector. Maybe another comparison which we can make, Joe, is between the United States and internationally. Which best practices can you observe in the area of social media campaigning internationally?
Well, I think that the main difference to some extent is the platforms. We're seeing social media have an impact across the world in many different countries, but in some, like the United States, it was more PC web dominated, and is now mobile is becoming more important. Mobile tools and apps are becoming more important, whereas in many places around the world, the cell phone and texting were already so everywhere. I mean, all the citizens were using cell phones more sometimes than particularly like in a place like Nigeria, for instance. There aren't as many PCs or laptops, but everybody has a cell phone that they can text message on. So what we see is social media having a huge impact, peer-to-peer messaging, friends sending their friends other messages about the campaign or about a policy or an issue is growing, and the strength and the power of that is very strong wherever it's used. But the only real difference tends to be what is the platform that is predominant in a culture or a different country. And what I find, same thing. In the United States, we were more PC-oriented, and now we're learning and moving more to mobile. And in other places where it was more mobile, they're learning using Facebook and some of the other more PC-dominated, as well as mobile, that they were already using, and the two are joining together. So I think it'll be similar, in a few years. You'll see a similar structure in most places.
Now, I mentioned you will be speaking here in Zurich next Friday. What do you know about social media campaigning in Switzerland?
Well, I was there. I came to Switzerland right at Peter was gracious enough to invite me to speak there. Oh gosh, Peter, how many years ago? Right after the Dean campaign.
That was in 2005.
Yes, in 2005, and so I'm very anxious to. And I was surprised at both the interest and how advanced the thinking already was starting to be in Switzerland about using these tools. And so I'm very happy to be coming again, and very anxious to see, to not only share my views, but also to see how things have progressed in Switzerland and what how things have advanced between 2005 and today. But it was ahead of the game then for most places in Europe because of people like Peter and others who were really out there trying to see what was the leading edge and to try to bring it to Switzerland and move it forward.
Now, Peter, you're organizing this summit. What do you think about the current situation with regard to social media campaigning in Switzerland?
I see a lot of progress that took place during the last couple of years, and as Joe said, in 2005 we were a handful of people advocating for the use of social media. Today it's far more widespread, but there is still a lot of hesitation, and there are still people are sometimes still afraid of losing control, which I understand. I have another project where people are just posting. So the understanding that social media is dialogue, is interaction, is involving people, is not 100% out there yet.
Peter, what's interesting is here in the States what happened was we had the hesitancy when the Dean campaign was the first one, and everybody thought we were crazy because we were giving up too much control. And so a lot of the politicians the next time around in 2008 were still very careful, stayed away from it. And the Hillary Clinton campaign was one of the campaigns that stayed away from it, thought it was would still do it the old way. We don't need to do this new thing. It's a fad. It's not real. The Obama campaigns went full bore with involving people and using social media, and that when he won and the Careful campaign lost, all of a sudden now it started with Dean, but after the Obama success, there still are players here who are cautious that don't want to give up control. But there's now the worry is more if. The campaign that is worried about not using enough social media. As before it was, we're careful not to use too much. Now it's the other way. So the change is it's happening, and it's happening slower. But I think it's inevitable that people will be using social media to be engaged politically. And I think the political parties, the political candidates who embrace it are going to end up being the winners over the long term.
Yes, I think so too. But I see, for example, discussions in political parties here that social media is not that important. It's not a driving factor. But I think the same like you. We may be a few years behind, but it's going to become more and more important. And people who use it now, they will understand better how to use it when it's a real advantage.
Yes.
By the way, nice to meet you again.
Good to see you again too.
I have one more question. Sorry?
No, I was going to say one of the ways I can explain this to you is if four of your friends, and this is what the parties need to understand, if four of your friends text you over the weekend that they saw the new movie that everybody's been saying you had to see. They saw the new movie. It was horrible. You know, Christoph, do not go. Peter, do not go to the movie. Do not waste your time or your money. It is a waste. It no longer matters how many millions of dollars the studio spends with posters and ads telling you it'll be the greatest movie you ever saw. You're not going to go. Why? Because four people you trust, four peers that you trust, told you it's horrible, don't waste your money. And you're going to trust them much more than the message from the studio. The same thing is true of a candidate or a party. If four of your friends tell you this idea I heard is good, or watch this speech, or look at this policy, that's more important that four of your friends or four people, your members of your family or coworkers that you trust told you that, than even a candidate you like, even Barack Obama saying, look at me, look at my policy, it's great. It's not as good as four or five of your friends, coworkers, or family saying, I heard this speech from, and I'm using Obama as a name, but I heard this speech from Barack Obama. I hope you'll look at it. I think it's interesting. So the peer has actually more power now to move a campaign or a company's message or the message of what's really, whether the movie's really good or bad. The studio no longer has that kind of control. It can try to make a good movie, but it doesn't have control in its marketing anymore. It's not about giving up control. They've already lost it. And parties need to, I think, understand that they're not going to be immune to this. This is going to happen in politics, in journalism, in entertainment. It is slowly going to take hold, but it's going to happen. And it may be happening faster here, slower there.
I think it is even giving up control if you do not use social media, because people are using it anyway, and you just don't realize what they're saying, what they're talking about. You're losing control. Recently we had an election campaign here in Zurich, the city council, and an outsider won this campaign against one member of the political establishment. And he was using social media, he was using crowdfunding, and he got his message through while the other one did not get it through because the media were kind of, not really transmitting the story in the right way. And he had no control about the message out there, while the other one really had. So I think today we would have to say if you don't use social media, then you give up control.
Yes, I think that's right, Peter.
Just as a reminder, for those who are watching on YouTube, you can still send us your questions via Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. We already received 3 questions. I have one more question for you, Peter, regarding the summit. Joe is just one of your speakers. Who are the others?
Well, we have Philipp Madatana from Vienna. He is the inventor of the campaigning summit and owner of the campaigning bureau Vienna. He also has a lot of experience in election campaigning, but just like me, he understands campaigning much broader than just elections. He also sees the business aspect, and that campaigning is a methodology, a way of thinking that can do a lot for business. Then we have Markus Baumgartner. He was one of the campaign managers in the referendum on Thomas Minder, the Abzocker-Initiative. Sorry, Joe, I don't know how to say that in English, but I'll explain to you on Thursday.
I think the English expression was Big Cats or Fat Cats Initiative.
I can't really say. It was a referendum that should give more rights to shareholders, so that they have more control about how much managers in companies can earn and can take out of the company.
Okay, good.
And they won this referendum against an 8 million campaign of the leading economic associations, industry associations here in Switzerland. And 8 million in Switzerland, that's about the equivalent of $1 per inhabitant. Now in the US, I think this would be, how many inhabitants?
That would be about $300 million here.
Yeah, 300 million. So they won this campaign with very little money against a $300 million campaign.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's the equivalent. And then we have Rinaldo Dietziger. He is the founder of an online text agency, and he realized the potential of the internet for a new business model. And the way he made his company famous, and he did like guerrilla marketing for his company, has really campaigning aspects. It's a way of thinking that he showed there and that he used to lead his company to be successful, and he will talk about that. And who else? Then we have.
There will be you.
Yeah, and I will talk about the idea behind campaigning, the theory of campaigning, and what campaigning can add to the future of marketing, communication, and management.
Now,
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me
It's
too.
going to be a great summit.
Yeah,
we received a couple of questions from our community. 2 questions from Christina Omlin. She would like to know, initially, Joe, you mentioned that the social web can be manipulated. I think you mentioned that with regard to how businesses are using it. Where do you see this risk, and can you make an example?
Well, the idea, I think, is to empower people. I mean, the one thing about the web is it empowers, and social media and mobile is that the individual has power to join others and participate in their democracy, or in helping a company get a bit better product or a better mission. The problem is once you start, when you look at the big data components, where they now know, if people understood all the everything a company now knows about them because of what they're doing on social media, they would turn their machines off. And what the companies will now, and politicians can now do with that data to know exactly what to tell you, or what images to present to you to get you to think about buying their product, or so the manipulation of television that I think that I was hoping social media took us away from. We got away from manipulation and got to empowerment. There is a risk now, a very big risk, I believe, of the advertisers, politicians using the data from that social media to manipulate voters and consumers instead of empowering them. I think consumers and voters have to be aware of that and have to. We're the ones that have to keep control of our power and not be manipulated in this medium. And it's not. I'm not afraid of it. I just want to make people start to start thinking in that process, that possibility.
One more question from Christina Omlin. She would like to know, did you observe or follow the news from Istanbul over the weekend? Protests there, also organized with social media. What did you observe? What do you think about it?
No, obviously all of us are very, I think, aware of it, and I think we're seeing the power. Again, governments are not, they don't have a structure to deal with the bottom-up power of this messaging. It's that same peer-to-peer messaging. It happens very quickly, and so it's far faster to have 1 million people rise up and come to a square or protest than ever before. And governments used to be able to shut these things down very fast, right? As soon as they see the first 10 people, they arrest them and hide them. So you can't, and then no one else comes. With social media, hundreds of thousands of people can be spreading the message, and you can never catch up with it. The problem is it's a lot easier. It turns out, I think, and we're seeing this in the Arab Spring, it's a lot easier to stand up a whole bunch of people against something, against a Mubarak, against a government that they think is, and a lot tougher once they've succeeded to come to agreement about what's the new direction. Part of that is because the institutions, the institutional structures are not there yet to foster that. In other words, what's happening is we're making it up as we go along. The bottom is making decisions that it used to not be able to make, and there's no institutional structures in government or in the country to then channel that energy afterwards for, okay, now how do we move forward? That all has to be invented, and government, I think, has to start listening. This part of this is the governments are all used to telling us and not very good at listening. And social media is a place they should be doing a lot more listening and then engaging with people instead of not hearing, having their hands, oh, no, I didn't hear it. And then it gets so big that it's a huge problem, and then there's no channels to start the dialogue, the communication, the discussion about how we move forward. And so I think right now it's a very I think a dangerous time. I don't mean dangerous bad. I just mean dangerous time in terms of because the structures aren't there. We're inventing things as we go along. There's a lot of misunderstanding, too much violence, and things do get out of control.
Now, just one very short final question from a person called Wunderlisten on Twitter. He would like to know, Joe, can you give us an estimate of votes that will be driven by social media in the next presidential elections? Can you do that? Or well, can you imagine what the question or the person who asked the question would like to know? How efficient is it to use social media?
Well, I mean, the one thing that's different about it, I cannot tell you how this vote was a TV vote and this vote was a social media vote.
Otherwise, you're hired right away by the candidate.
What I can tell you is that the social media is essentially free, right? I mean, me tweeting as a candidate a message and then hoping that you will spread it to your friends is a fairly efficient and cheap way to move my message. The other ways cost posters, TV, whatever, costs a lot of money. The other thing is we know that you could see with Obama, we know that here in the United States, for instance, 30% of people do not really get are not watching television, particularly the younger generation. The younger generation does not watch television that much. They're getting almost all of their information from text messages or websites or social media, like from Twitter even. And so what you need to do is you have to be in where the people are. I mean, I should be talking to the 60% who watch television and only watch television on television, but the other 30%, I need to be talking to them on their cell phone or where they are and getting my message to them. And the other thing is the TV does not deliver that your friends telling you that the movie is good, right? The only place you can do that is social media. And I also think the next piece of that is, so if it's 60 and 30 now, the only thing I can tell you is that next year it will be 55 and 40. And the next year it will be the older generation that only watches, 70-year-old who spends most of their time watching television and almost no time on Twitter. Well, there will be fewer of them. I'm not trying to make a joke, but there will be fewer of them. And the younger people who are watching YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and using social media to communicate and learn and get their news, more of them are becoming 18, 19, 20 and going up. So I think it's inevitable that TV will start to lose much of its power, and social media will be growing in power. It doesn't mean radio is still very powerful. TV took over the world. Radio still is so it's not, TV is not going to die and video is not going to die. It's just going to be more social. We'll be sharing it more, like this today, like this hangout today. People are watching this. I can move my message. It's not dependent on television so much anymore.
Good. We're running out of time. Thank you very much for your time, Joe and Peter. We're looking forward to the summit next Friday. Many thanks to those who watched on YouTube as well. This video, as usual, will be available on our YouTube channel, on Twitter, Facebook, Google+. SOMX on Air will be on air for the next time, next week. Check our Google+ page for more information. Thank you very much once again, and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Good to be with you, Christoph.
Just one second. Christoph.
Of course.
1 second. It's this Friday, not next Friday.
Well, I mean, yes, it's this Friday, the next Friday, which will be in your calendar.
I'm getting on the plane in like 36 hours, so it better be this Friday. I look forward to seeing you. I look
Friday, 7th of June.
Great to be with you.
Yeah.
See you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.